Hi, I'm Michelle Falk and I'm here from Half Fork Will Travel for the Fresno County Library's Valentine's Tapas for Two dinner, or small plates to share with the one you love. I hope you caught the appetizer video. We had some tasty tidbits to share with the one you love, and now we're going to go on to the main dishes. We're going to make crab cakes on sweet potato pancakes, a coconut lentil curry, and then we're going to wrap it up with a sweet butter shrimp. So we're going to get started with the crab cakes. You can do some of this ahead of time, the day before or even 2 days before, so that way on Valentine's Day you can just put it together and enjoy a leisurely meal at the end of the evening. So we're going to start with the crab cakes. They take a little bit of preparation. You can do it the day before. Form the crab cakes and let them sit in the refrigerator, but today we're going to cook the vegetables, let them cool. We'll start on the curry, and while the crab cake mixture is chilling, we'll finish everything up, and then we'll do the shrimp at the end. So to start off for the crab cakes, we have bay seasoning, salt and pepper, a little bit of chili flakes, and that's optional. You can add more or less depending on your preferred level of heat. A little bit of Worcestershire sauce, about a half a cup of diced onions, about a half a cup of diced parsley. You don't have to use all this. This is a little bit more than that. About a half a cup of diced celery, about 2 stalks, and about a half a cup of diced colored peppers. So I'm using orange and red. If you have yellow, you can throw those in there too. The colored peppers are a little bit sweeter. The green bell peppers are a little bit more on the bitter side even when cooked, and we want to keep everything nice and sweet to pair with the crab. So let me turn on the, there we go. All right, so we're going to start off with about 2 tablespoons of butter. And it's okay if the pan is not hot at this point. Everything will cook fairly rapidly on this. While the butter is melting, we're going to add in about 2 tablespoons of olive oil. And one of the reasons why you want 2 types of oil is that they have different smoke points. So that way you can cook the vegetables without heating them up too much to worry about burning and scorching. And once the butter is mostly melted, you could add in the onions. And again, that's about a half a cup. Diced, you can use yellow or white onions for this. And you don't want the heat too high. We want it about medium at this point. The idea is to cause them to turn translucent, not brown yet. You also want to add in about a half a cup of the celery. The reason you want to do that together is because celery is a little bit more dense than, say, the peppers, so that way they cook at about the same rate as the onions. And this goes pretty rapidly, so make sure you pay attention to the heat and just mix everything together. As you can see, they're starting to caramelize, or actually turn a little bit translucent. And once it's cooked for about 3 to 4 minutes, you're going to add in the peppers and part of the parsley. You don't want to add all the parsley in at one time. I think it looks a little bit nicer if you save some to add in when you're mixing in the breadcrumbs into the crab cake mixture, just to give it a little bit more texture and color. Okay, so these are done enough. We're going to add in the bell peppers, and believe it or not, orange, red, and yellow bell peppers are just different stages of a green bell pepper, different degrees of ripeness. But these will be nice and sweet to pair with the crab flakes. Okay, so we're going to add in about a 1/4 cup of the parsley. It's about 2 pinches of red pepper flakes, and you can add in more if you like. A half a teaspoon of salt and black pepper. Fresh ground preferred, but if all you have is a pre-ground, then that's perfectly fine. And about a teaspoon of Old Bay seasoning. And then you're going to add in a teaspoon to a teaspoon and a half of Worcestershire sauce. That's kind of one of my secret weapons for cooking. Don't tell anybody. And you're just going to let it cook. See how pretty that looks? Now you're going to let it cook for about 5 minutes or so. 5 to 10 minutes. You don't want it to burn, so you're going to want to keep an eye on it. But you do want the vegetables to cook down so that they're somewhat soft. You want a little bit of texture to them still, so you don't want to overcook them. The idea is to give a little bit of extra flavor and texture to the crab cake. So after about 5 minutes, you're going to pull this off the heat. Let it cool down to room temperature, and that happens pretty rapidly. And then once that's done, we will get the crab flakes, the breadcrumbs, and the rest of it. Mix it all together and put it in the refrigerator for about 30 minutes. The idea for that is that way the breadcrumbs rehydrate and help give a binder along with the egg to the crab cakes, so when you fry them, they stick together as opposed to falling apart. Alright, so this is going really well. And again, you can use your degree of doneness that you prefer. If you want a little bit crunchier texture to your crab cakes, then cook them a little less. If you want a little bit softer vegetable in there, then you can cook it till about 10 minutes. I wouldn't go more than about 15, because otherwise you're going to have too soft of a texture for the vegetable, and the crab cake won't be as nice to eat. It'll be too mushy in texture. Alright, so this is about done enough for now. As you can see, it's a nice little amount. Still nice and bright. And that's a way of adding additional color along with flavor to what you're going to make. So let me turn this off and take this off the heat. While this is cooling, we'll set up and start cooking the curry, and we'll go from there. Alright, so we have the vegetables cooling to room temperature for the crab cake, so we're going to start on the curry. So for that, we're going to take some coconut oil, and just a little bit. It's only about a tablespoon. This is one way to make this a vegan or vegetarian dish. Instead of using butter, you use coconut oil. So we're just going to melt that down. And then we have some cumin and coriander seed. We're going to add that to the oil and let those toast for just a few minutes. This is not a time to walk away and check on the TV or anything. You're going to want to make sure to watch this. Spices can burn very easily. We're doing this over a medium to medium high temperature. So it's going to toast pretty rapidly, and when it gets a little bit further along, we're going to add the garlic. We have one head of garlic that has been minced. It sounds like a lot of garlic, but it will actually be pretty mellow and provide a nice flavor to the curry or dal, depending how you want to call it. It's very pungent in the kitchen at the moment because a head of garlic is a lot of garlic, but when you cook garlic, if you roast it, it turns sweet, almost a caramely flavor. And when you are cooking it in this method, it's still there and present, but it takes the edge off. It doesn't have the raw garlic burn that you might get if you just threw it in at the last moment. And again, if you don't want to use as much of garlic, you can use half a head or even just a couple cloves, but you do need some garlic in the dish. It adds a ton of flavor in a very short manner of time. So I can hear the coriander seed popping a little bit, which tells me it's time to add in the garlic. And if you don't have chopped garlic or a head of garlic, you can use the garlic granules or dehydrated garlic. Just keep in mind that you're going to want to add a little bit at a time, so don't add it in at this point. If it's a powdered garlic, you're going to want to add it in a little bit later due to the fact of the method of cooking. So we're just toasting the garlic a little bit as well, so that way we get an additional layer of flavor. And a curry, or this type of curry or dal, is kind of like a soup, so you can have it by itself. You can have it with a crusty piece of bread or naan, or you can serve it over rice. We're going to be having it over some white rice tonight. Actually, a white and brown rice mixture. I like the texture of that at the end. So you can really smell the coconut oil, but it's not overpowering. Again, the coconuts give it a nice little faintly sweet flavor at the very end. But right now it's just providing a good oil to cook in, and we're ready to add everything else. So this goes really rapidly. It takes just a couple minutes for the seeds and the garlic to toast and get a little bit caramelized and cooked. We're going to add in 1 cup of brown lentils. We also have a little bit of red lentils in here because that's what we had in the house. And you can toast these up ahead of time or just throw them in. Just make sure they're coated in the oil and keep stirring. The idea again is to build flavor on flavor. So the caramelization of the garlic by toasting it in the oil will give it a little bit more. We're going to put in a little bit of ginger powder. If you have whole ginger, that would be great. 1 28-ounce can of diced tomatoes. And the reason for that is that will provide a little bit of moisture in addition to the water we're going to be adding shortly. We have about a tablespoon of turmeric. That will provide color and flavor. And then the level of cayenne pepper is optional. This is about a teaspoon. You can add a little bit more if you want, or a little bit less. You can also add jalapenos if you want a little bit spicier. Each type of pepper adds a little bit different flavor. Another pepper you could add would be a little bit of ground Aleppo. It adds a little bit of a citrusy, fruity taste. Not a lot, but just a little bit to round out the flavors. And then last and least, we're going to add in about 1.5 teaspoons of salt. You don't want to add too much in at this point. You can always season more at the end. It's just to get all the flavors melding while you're bringing it to a boil. So as you can see, we have a nice little texture here that's starting, but we need to bring it to a boil. And once that happens, we're going to add in a little bit more water, but we need it to come up a little bit further. And it's a really pretty dish, I must say. It's really easy to do, and it tastes great the second day. So if you make a pot of this for Valentine's Day, you can have some that night. It freezes really well and reheats great. So you can space this out. Think of it as a meal prep that everybody will enjoy. All right, so we're bringing it to a boil. Once it comes to a boil, we're going to cover it and let it go for about 35 to 40 minutes. You're going to want to stir it occasionally, about every 5 to 6 minutes, just to make sure that the lentils don't stick to the bottom of the pan. When it gets thick, then we will pull it off and add in the coconut milk. About the last 15 minutes of the cooking time, you're going to want to add in about half of a large or 1 small diced sweet potato. It adds a little bit of texture and a little bit extra depth of flavor to that. A little bit of sweetness without being sweet. If you don't like sweet potato, you don't have to add it in. You can also add in chopped zucchini or even some diced carrots about the last 15 minutes. That way you have a little bit more texture, but also a little bit more flavor. So this is almost coming to a boil. And like I said, when it comes to boil, we're going to let it go for about 40 minutes, but you're going to reduce the heat and cover it and then we'll go from there. All right, so this has been about 30-40 minutes later, and as you can see, I've added in the diced sweet potatoes to add a little bit of extra flavor and texture to it. And it's a little on the thick side, which is what you're going to want. As it reduces down and the lentils swell up, the mixture gets a little thicker. So again, you're going to want to watch it about every 6 to 8 minutes, stir it, and towards the end of the cooking time, add a little bit of water if it seems like it's sticking to the bottom of the pan. And with it having coconut oil instead of ghee or bacon fat or any animal product, this is a vegetarian or vegan dish, so you can use just water. If you want to add chicken stock or vegetable stock instead of the 3 cups of water during the cooking time, you can do that as well, but it tastes totally delicious with using water because of the amount of seasonings that we're adding. So this is about the texture that you want. It's a little on the thick side, similar to a chili, and you're going to add in 1 can of coconut milk. Not coconut cream, but coconut milk. You can use the cream that's floating at the top of the can, just mix it in. It's going to add a little bit more of a luscious mouthfeel to it. And if you add a little bit too much of the spices, it helps balance that out as well. Like I said earlier, in addition to the cayenne, you can add in some diced jalapenos. Another addition would be maybe a lime or lemon that you've cut up, or just put the juice of 1 lemon or lime in. It also makes a great garnish at the end. So at this point, we are turning the temperature up a little bit to medium, almost a medium high. We don't want it to scorch. But as you can see, this is turning a lovely orange color, and the coconut cream from the top of the can is melting into the dal. Alright, so we're just about done with this dish. It's really simple. It comes together really quick. The main time is with the cooking, and that comes together in about 40 minutes, which is about the same time it takes for the crab cakes for the breadcrumbs and the crab cakes to rehydrate, so that way when you fry them they hold together without falling apart. So this part is done. Take a taste. I got to get a spoon. That's really good. Now what you can do is you can put in some extra parsley or cilantro, and it's a good way to garnish it when you're going to serve it. I like adding a little bit extra in just during the cooking right near the end, just again to provide a little bit extra flavor and texture. And then you can add a little bit on top when it's time to serve it as well. But doesn't that look pretty? Really simple, really delicious, and like I said, it can freeze well. It's really good the next day, and you can use it in a variety of different ways. So let me put this off to the side to keep it warm while we get the crab cakes put together and get those ready to fry. So we're underway pretty well. We have the cooled vegetables here from earlier, and it's nice and pretty, bright colors, really nice texture. The crab cakes go together so easy, it's unbelievable. So we're going to add the vegetables into the bowl. And this is one of the ways to get additional vegetables in without seeming like you're getting your vegetables in. We have 8 ounces of lump crab meat. You can use whatever type you can find. This I believe is lump, but if you find the claw meat, that works just as well. And if you're tight on a budget, you can use the fake crab with a K. Just chop it up real fine and it will work just as well. So we're adding that in. Again, this is all about affordable but taste good. Use what's available and what you can find. All right, so we have about a 1/2 cup of breadcrumbs, and the breadcrumbs give it a little bit additional body, so everything will help stick together. We have 2 eggs. We're going to add those in, and a 1/2 cup of mayonnaise. The mayonnaise is oil and eggs, so it's a little bit of additional moisture boost on that. You don't want too much, otherwise it will get too gloppy and not stick together when you are frying it. If that happens, I would recommend, or if you're not sure, do a test patty first, and you can always add in a little bit more breadcrumbs to stiffen things up. So we're going to mix it really well, and I think we're going to add in a little bit more of the chopped parsley, just because I like it and I make a mess. So you can also add in a little bit of cilantro or basil. The choice is up to you. The idea is mix everything really well and incorporate the breadcrumbs, the mayonnaise, and the eggs, because those will work together as a binder. So you have a nice firm crab cake where it's crunchy on the outside and cooked and creamy on the inside, which is about perfect. And that will pair really nicely with the sweet potato pancakes we're going to make after that. So as you can see, it's nice and all mixed together. We're going to put that in the refrigerator, covered up for about 30 minutes, 45 minutes, so that way everything can set. Check it when you pull it out to make sure that it's will hold together in the shape of a patty, and that way when you fry it again, it won't fall apart. If it does fall apart, we'll address that in just a minute when we get to the frying. So let me cover this up, we'll put it up, we'll get to frying. Okay, we're on the downhill. We have just a couple things left, and then we'll be able to enjoy our entree for the Valentine dinner. So I'm going to turn the cooktop on, and we're going to heat up a little bit of olive oil. If you prefer, you can use plain like canola or vegetable oil. You want a mild tasting oil. You can even use peanut oil, again, something with a better smoke point. If you use olive oil, again, keep an eye on it, don't wander away. So we've pulled the crab cake mixture out of the refrigerator. It's been chilling for about 40 minutes, and it's a nice consistency. So if you're not sure, you can always do a quick test fry to make sure that it doesn't fall apart when you cook it. If it does, it's not a big deal, just add a little bit more breadcrumbs, but the egg should help hold everything together. So you're going to want something make a ball about that big, not quite a baseball, but definitely, probably about tennis ball size. You want to make sure that there's a good amount, and press it down so it's about 1 inch thick. You want it to be able to cook evenly on both sides. So heat up your frying pan and the oil to medium high, again, just so that the oil is starting to shimmer. And the idea is you're going to want to crust it. And we're just going to do 4 patties. This will make more than that. You can make all of this a day ahead of time. Get it to this point, so that way the next morning or next afternoon you're just pulling it out to cook it. You could do this for breakfast. Make a hollandaise sauce or top it with a nice cheese sauce, and it would go really well on toast or the sweet potato pancakes that we're going to make shortly. And any leftovers you have, you could freeze and then just pop in your air fryer to heat up down the road, or a toaster oven just to heat it through and crisp it up a little bit more on the outside. Another option would be rolling this in panko or rice crumbs right before you are going to fry it. That'll give it a little bit extra layer of crispiness on top. And I wish you could smell this. The house smells really wonderful right now with this. So I'm turning it up just a little bit. We want it to crust and get a nice golden brown on the bottom before we turn it over. And once these are done, we'll get started on the sweet potato pancakes. Just make sure that you have your oven preheated to 250. We're going to put the crab cakes in there to stay warm while we finish up the pancakes and do the shrimp. The shrimp will cook really quickly, as you'll see. It's just basically clean. Throw them in some oil with a little bit of salt and pepper, maybe a little bit of chili flakes, and you're going to glaze it in your favorite sauce. It could be ketchup with a little bit of extra chili powder thrown in. It could be your favorite bottled sauce. You could even use Catalina dressing from salads. The choice is up to you, but it does cook very fast, so that's why we saved it till the very end, and then we'll plate everything. So these are cooking nicely. Turn that down a little. It's a little too hot. You know your stove. If it looks like it's cooking a little bit too fast, just turn it down. And we'll get this last one flipped. And we'll turn these down a little bit, just let them go a little bit further on lower heat to finish cooking the egg all the way through. You don't want raw egg. That would cause a little bit of issues and would not be a good, enjoyable meal. But these should cook fairly rapidly, probably 3 to 5 minutes altogether. And we're just waiting. As you see, one of them, the first one got a little bit overdone on the bottom because I had the pan too hot. And again, that's part of do a test one, see how it goes. You may have to lower the heat on your pan or turn it up a little bit. But you know your stove better than I do. That's how it works. It's cooking. Alright, so they seem to be doing really well. They're holding their shape, which is what you want. And again, that's what the breadcrumbs and the egg will help do. And give me just a moment and we'll pull them off and break one open and take a look. So as you can see, the crab cakes are almost done. I turned the heat down just a little bit. I have one shredded sweet potato. It's been peeled, washed and peeled, and shredded on a box grater. If you have a food processor, you can go ahead and use that. I just use a box grater. It was quick to do, didn't take but a few minutes. So to that, we're going to add 1 egg. That will help work as a binder. About a teaspoon of salt. That will help draw a little bit of water out before cooking. And move my pepper. A little bit of 5 or 6 turns of black pepper. You could also add a little bit of cayenne pepper or other seasoning in. You could add some parsley or cilantro in if that's what you want. Garlic powder or onion powder. It's really versatile, but you just want a simple potato pancake just as a base for the crab cakes. So I'm going to pull the crab cakes out. We're trying to keep this as little dishes as possible. Don't those look good? Look, as it escapes. And get over here. Last one. So we're going to let those drain for a moment. We'll put them on a cookie sheet to put in the oven at 250 for probably about 10 minutes just to finish crisping up on the outside. So we have the oil going in the pan. I'm going to add just a smidge more. You could also add a little bit of butter at this point if you wanted to. That would work just as well. We're going with olive oil to keep it simple. Alright, so we have our potatoes mixed up with the egg. And the egg will help work with the starch in the potato to keep it together. So we're just going to drop it by tablespoonfuls. And you just want a nice little base. It doesn't have to be perfectly round. This is about love, not perfection. But you want to keep it fairly thin, about 1/2 inch, maybe a little bit more. You don't want it too thick or it's going to take too long to cook. And we'll do 2 at a time. And 1 medium-sized sweet potato will give you probably 4 to 5 potato cakes. And you don't want it too high. Sweet potatoes do have sugar in them. So otherwise it will cook too fast and burn on the bottom just from the caramelization of the sugar. This won't take too many minutes. The egg will help everything set a little bit, but it will take probably about 3 to 4 minutes per side at medium heat. Again, watch it, don't walk away. You want to make sure that it doesn't cook too fast on the bottom. Another good addition for this would be a little bit of onion powder or garlic powder. You can make it more sweet by adding in cinnamon. It depends what you want to do to change up the flavor a little bit. Okay, let me give it just a few minutes and then we'll flip them. As you can see, the sweet potato cakes are almost done. Now remember, you have to start them off low and cook them for probably at least 5 minutes before you try to flip them. Once you flip them, you're going to let them go for about another 5 to 6 minutes on the second side. Turn the heat up to just a little bit higher, closer to medium. Flip them over again, let them crisp. It's going to take about 3 to 4 minutes, maybe 5 minutes to get golden on the side. Flip it again. Think of it as like twice cooked French fries, similar to that. So you're cooking it through the first time, flipping it over, cooking the second side. When you flip them back over, you're caramelizing the sweet potato and getting the nice golden color on it. So that way, when you stick them and the crab cakes in the oven at 250 for about 10 or 15 minutes, the outside will get nice and crisp, the inside will stay soft, and you'll be all set to eat. So we're going to move the crab cakes onto the, oh heck with it, we're going to use our fingers. Crab cakes onto a silicone paper lined pan, and I like this because it makes it easier cleanup. And then we're going to take your cake and just slide it right over there. Okay, see how pretty those look? Then when we're ready to plate, after we pull them out of the oven, we're going to put a little bit of sour cream and chives on top. You can also, if you like, put a piece of cheese on top to melt in between. I prefer it as is with just a little bit of sour cream. The sour cream, the tartness will cut through the richness of the crab cake to give it a little bit more fancy feel, I guess. You're going for a nice dinner, a nice romantic dinner. This is the way to do it. So give me just a moment. We'll put this in the oven, we'll pull out the shrimp, use the same pan, and finish up the dinner. So thanks for hanging in there. We're almost done. So all that's left is the shrimp. So you're going to need about a half a dozen of the large shrimp. I think they're 1620s, or you can get some smaller. I actually prefer the smaller size shrimp, but this is a special occasion, so we're going big. So you only need about 6 to 8 of those. Whatever your favorite sweet chili sauce or sweet and sour sauce is. Store-bought is actually okay. You've been making the whole meal. You can relax a little bit and use that. We're going to take a little bit of clarified butter and put that in the pan and let that melt. And also a little bit of olive oil. Like I mentioned earlier, butter and olive oil have 2 different smoke points. It also gives a little bit better variety or depth of flavor, so that way you get all the fruity goodness of the olive oil along with the comfort of butter. We're heating the oil up a little bit. We have the shrimp and it's going to spatter. I haven't salted or seasoned these yet. We're going to do a little bit once they're cooking. So once the oil is hot, you're just going to gently lay the shrimp in, and it's going to cook very quickly. So you're going to need to be on your toes, and it's only going to take like 2 or 3 minutes per side. I did leave the tails on, gives a little bit of a handle, and it's also one way to tell when the shrimp is cooked. When the shrimp shells are cooked, they turn pink. So if you're ever not sure, that's one way. I am going to season these with a little bit of cracked pepper while they're cooking. Not too much, because we do have the sweet chili sauce that will add more kick. And let's see. I do have a little bit of Himalayan sea salt that I will sprinkle on as well, just to give it. And just add a little bit of extra flavor. And they will cook really quickly. As you can see, they're starting already. You don't want shrimp to cook too long because otherwise they will turn rubbery. And once these are a little bit more done, we will make a quick pan sauce with water, a little bit of the chili sauce, and that will be all there is to it. So we're flipping these over. We're not going to cook them all the way just yet because I do want them to simmer in the sauce a little bit. But shrimp are one of the nice proteins in that they will tell you with the color when they're done. And if you're using an induction burner like this, it does help to move it around. As you've noticed, some of the spots cook a little bit faster than others. I'm sure your stove does the same thing. All right, so this is the first one we flipped over, and they're almost ready to make the sauce. And I really wish you could hear or smell my kitchen. Between the crab cakes, the sweet potato cakes, the curry, and the shrimp, it smells heavenly. So the shrimp are almost done. We're going to turn it up just a little bit more. I'm going to pour in a little bit of water. Not a whole lot, just a little bit. And we're going to pour in a little bit of the sauce. And the water will reduce down and coat the shrimp. And finish cooking them in the sweetness. You can always add a little bit more. Again, this is where your personal preference will come into play. If you want a little bit more sauce on there, you can. If you want it a little on the drier side, or you're having just the butter and the shrimp, you can do that as well. And I think I'm going to add actually a little bit more because I like it saucy. And you want to make sure that the shrimp is coated on both sides. And this will reduce down just a little bit. You don't want it to go down too much. And it will thicken as it cools. As you can see, it's getting a little thicker now just from cooking. That's from the sugar. Alright, so we're going to turn that off. And let that cool down just a minute. Don't those look good? I know what I'm having for dinner tonight. So let me get this off the heat. Let me get everything out and we'll plate that up and you can see what the main dishes look like when they're all ready to eat. So all your hard work is going to pay off. You're going to have a delicious dinner with your loved one. So this is what we wound up with. It took what, maybe hour and a half, and some of this you can do ahead of time. You can make the curry the day before and just warm it up the day of. You can make the crab cakes, get them all set the day before, so you're just frying them up right before you need them. And the shrimp are always good at the last minute, so that way they're perfectly cooked. So as you can see, the coconut lentil curry is vegetarian and vegan. You can add chicken, or you can even put the shrimp in there if you so choose. They're really good together. The crab cakes have a little bit of sour cream to cut through the richness, and the sweet potato cakes are just everybody's favorite version of hash browns, but for dinner. And who doesn't like breakfast for dinner? And then we have the shrimp. So if you don't mind, I'm going to take a quick taste. Make sure that you check out the recipes on www.forktravel.com and watch the other 2 episodes. We have the appetizer with a couple of mixed drinks, one with alcohol, one without, and also for the desserts with also a couple of nightcaps as well. So let me try this, but remember, life is too short for bad food. Oh, that's really good. Just a little bit of sweetness. The sweet potatoes give it a little bit of give and texture to it. And I have to eat the shrimp. At least one bite. It's so good. I wish you could try it. And now for the crab cake. It's been really hard not to sample while I'm filming this because it smells so good in here. Oh yeah. Remember, it only takes about an hour and a half cooking time. You can prep a lot of this early, so that way you can spend more time with your loved one, not a whole lot of time in the kitchen, and make sure to check out dessert.